In this video, I'm going to be talking with the creator of Hugo's Two More Handers, and I hope you enjoy. And if you enjoy this type of content and just this conversation about mod developing, make sure to drop your like and subscribe, especially at subscribe. You know that I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and if you actually enjoy the content, you might as well subscribe. Without more or less, let's jump into the video. Okay, so are you ready?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, I'm not ready, so that's why I'm asking. I always ask this because it's something that is just related to the way I am and the way I understand things. It's why you created the mod.
Oh, why I really created the mod is I always kind of liked two-handed weapons in some games, and I found that it was really lacking in this. And even the two-handed weapon that is in the game, the battle axe, didn't really seem to do any justice, at least when I was able to build it way back when. I know they did push out an update to let it hit multiple people, but even then, like, the requirements to get it, like, by the time we even managed to craft it, we were already done with the Iron Age. So I it was just really the lack of variety in weapons in Valheim. Because usually you can find any mace that you want. If you want to use some kind of blunt weapon, you'll find that in almost every category.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
but swords and two-handers, like, there's really nothing.
I feel like,
There-
especially the two-handed weapons, I'm not gonna say that about the swords because I don't think that applies that much to the swords. But the two-handed weapons really, it was lacking the diversity that you're speaking of, and also like I'm not gonna go ahead and use the two-handed weapon because there's no way I can parry, right? So if I cannot parry, if I cannot defend, and like parry is such an important mechanic on Valheim, like I'm not gonna choose the two-handed weapon by doing that. And one thing that I think your mod does very well is that you have that sensation that okay, I can parry certain things with the sword, and that actually helps a lot for you to pretty much go ahead and just do whatever that you need to do with the swords. And that's something I kind of noticed on your mod. I can use this because I can totally go ahead and just like parry and attack right after it.
yeah, that was one of my goals when I was making it, was if I am going to make new two-handed weapons, is to make sure that there's a valid reason, because everything to parry in the base game is one-handed shield, like a little round shield and a
Yeah,
mace, because you get the best stagger and basically damage type, because blunt works on everything.
yeah.
And of course you get parry. So if your block skill is good, you get I have a silver shield right here. You get basically another 50% of your block power. Like that's even better than like a tower shield.
That's something I love about your mod, and also the way that every weapon looks. I don't know, I just feel so attached to some of the weapons because it's not the fact that they glow, it's the fact that even if you see the weapons, they don't have particle effects, or there's just not a lot of glow in there. You can see there's like bits of small details that they are quite interesting that you don't pick up straight away unless you're like looking super close. And I love the fact that you actually did that, went and did all your work, and I'm gonna do these small details that it's likely that nobody's gonna see, but I'm still gonna do it anyway. So that was something again that I loved about that mod too.
Yeah, there's quite a bit, especially like the silver battle axe and the great silver mace. I wanted to try to design them to look as close to Frostner as possible,
Yeah,
just because they're like magical ones.
yeah, that makes sense. So what was the hardest part of creating this mod? What is the thing that you struggled the most at?
I think the hardest part I found was at least getting the actual project set up, like Unity itself, getting it set up to be able to assemble my models and textures and everything and get it into a state where I can actually do something with it. Then afterwards, after that, it was getting the Visual Studio, so the actual code side, to make the BepInEx
Yeah,
uh, plugin. That was the next one, was trying to find a tutorial, because at the time, like, I really didn't want to use any modding libraries.
okay,
I actually wanted to learn how to
to do
mod,
it. Okay,
and the first server I was in was basically just use Valheim lib, use Valheim lib. Like it
Yeah,
was really pushed, and it's like, okay, I probably will in the future, but right
yeah.
now I want to learn how to do this. So it was just really hard trying to find that information.
You were close to have not a lot of experience doing this pretty much. It was like your first try, it's your first mod, or did you have some kind of experience?
I have modded before for various other games.
Okay,
This would be my first Unity-based game
okay.
that I've modded.
Because we are talking quite a bit before we even do this, and you were saying you wanted to learn to do certain stuff about the upcoming stuff that you want to do. Yeah, we'll maybe talk about it a little bit later on. But you said you were trying to learn certain things yet. So I just got there asking myself, is like a first time? You never modded something? But since you have some background on it, it kind of makes sense that, yeah, you had some challenges here and there, but you could manage to do it because you already some experience. So that's kind of nice. What was your favorite two-handed weapon and why was it?
I have to say my favorite two-handed weapon is actually the Great Core Mace.
The red one or the green?
Kind of both. It was
Okay.
the red one because it was the initial one that I created. The green one was created because I have a friend and he loves the color green. So do
Okay.
I, but
Okay.
he really loves the color green.
So you had input from your friends creating the mod, that's it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I made the green one. Um, but the reason why I really love the Great Core Mace is just the design of it was completely out of my skill range. Like
Oh, okay.
I don't really design shapes
Okay.
in this matter. And so I really had a great time learning how to make the 3D model of it. And then just basically the whole texture idea of it, of this really dark metal, dark iron kind of spiky cage with a spinning Surtling core that's on fire.
Yeah, that was a great idea. That was a great idea. I loved it. Just saying.
I just really liked the idea and just putting it together.
Did you
So
went and like I see some people that they get certain stuff from other games or from other how do I say this? Like pretty much they are copying something from other games or having like the texture from other stuff and they are putting in. Did you do that or did you actually created everything from scratch from zero?
I created everything from scratch.
Oh
I
my
know
soul.
I did do the Dragon Slayer sword.
That's
Now,
cool.
I didn't take any models from anyone. I basically remodeled it and did my own texture of it, but I did look at references. I
Okay.
usually try to avoid pop culture stuff just
Okay.
because I feel that's almost like an easy out personal opinion because basically
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't have to think of a design. You just kind of look at what someone else has done and just replicate it.
Yeah.
I know it's usually a good exercise for some people,
Yeah.
and you could basically argue the silver great sword and the iron great sword are basically that because I was referencing real world.
Yeah, yeah. And it's pretty amazing the fact that you kind of come up and created everything all by yourself, to be honest. I know that people do that, and I know that certain people don't do that. And I was actually curious to know that if you actually came out and did all the work all by yourself, and that's quite nice. And I think that justifies all the success you had with the mod. I think right now you are at 76th place on the mod Nexus, if I'm not mistaken. You are on the third page. And I think your mod is like 1 month of something, 1 month, 2 months, and that's actually quite nice. I think you did an amazing job in such a short time, to be honest, and you updated quite frequently. So why did you create the memorial sword for the guy that wrote the Berserk anime?
So initially, like I know I said like I was trying to avoid pop culture swords and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh, I initially was asked by another user if I would implement it. They sent me a link to Berserk Armory,
Okay.
which basically had created the store to ask me to implement it. And of course, since I don't really do pop culture stuff, I said, um, I don't think I will. But then one of my close friends, he is a huge Berserk fan,
There's the
and
motivation.
he messaged me and he said the author passed away.
Oh no.
And I was like, "Really?" They said, "Yeah, he died at, I believe, 53, 54,
Oh my soul.
from heart failure."
My soul.
And Berserk isn't his only thing that he's done, but he's been working on Berserk for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Like basically, like he started close to my age and just worked on something for 30 years, and that's quite impressive.
I agree because certain people they are starters, they are not finishers. They somewhere in the middle they quit, and sometimes when you quit in the middle, it's a difference between making or breaking it, pretty much. And I agree with that, and that's why you see a lot of animes that actually go and do a long way and go a long way because of it. Especially, I feel like that way with Dragon Ball pretty much because I'm such a fan of Dragon Ball, and I think Dragon Ball managed to replicate that thing over and over again in every series. Once I kind of saw your sword, the Berserker sword, I was like, I didn't know what the guy was and what the anime was. I never watched it, but like just the idea of having the memorial sword to me, it just kind of like touched me a lot. And like in one part of the video, I almost cried, or if I didn't cry, I absolutely was close to do it, because like I remember where I had some people or someone else that I will never see in my life, whether he's alive or dead, and he kind of like taught me something just by watching him doing or just by watching him talking. And at the moment, like I kind of just broke down because of the sword. The sword was quite an incredible for me. Besides all the swords, I think that one is one of the swords that I'm gonna keep in mind for a long time just because of it. I love that you did there, and the memorial sword was amazing. And especially if you did it for your friend, you're such a nice guy, by the way.
And for someone that's really given him a series that he's really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, I feel like your friend in some part would feel that at least I tried. I could have done better, but I tried to do something that would honor this guy because he gave me a lot of pleasure or enjoyment with this anime series or whatever it is. So that's quite nice. Did you feel like you improved that modding in general?
I would say I'm always improving bit by bit.
Okay.
Uh, I'd say, like I said, of the Great Core Mace and even Motor Sorrow.
Okay.
I always pronounce it Motor. It's
Yes.
almost close to like Motor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'd say I definitely branched out from my usual designs,
That's
which I would
nice.
say is like easy designs
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice.
to create something a little more unique. Uh, Definitely when I did the black metal great sword, when I first did it, it was the iron great sword. It was basically a flamberge, just the wavy two-handed sword.
Yeah. I remember.
And I was like, this doesn't really fit. Like when I look at all the other black metal weapons, like this doesn't fit their like design. They have a more like orc is kind of the general term. That's kind of
Yeah.
like it's a crude, but it's still shaped into something and it's just sharpened.
Yeah.
So it's just roughly forged. So the new design is just this really long heap of metal that they've kind of hammered into a sharpened edge.
It actually makes sense to me because it comes from black metal, and black metal is you only get that by defeating goblins. So yeah, it's a weapon that it's not perfect, but it does the job in terms of the aspect. It's not like super pointy, and there's some edges in there, but I think that makes sense, and I love that you kind of changed that. When I first saw the first 7 weapons, I didn't really understood that about the black metal sword. Just like in general, I didn't pay that much attention to the normal swords because really at the point where I saw your mod, I really got the attention from the modders, and the flame metal was the two ones that I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I think that you switched a lot of weapons very, very well. And with the Great Core Messes, again, we're touching the same subject that we did in like 2 minutes ago or something. But I think the Great Core Messes were a really cool example of what you did. You picked up on something that was made out of the game, like certain cores are on the game, that's it, and you pick up everything and you just created a weapon with that, with something that you add in the game. It was nothing outside of that, and the visual, it was pretty much the same thing. So I enjoyed that logic and everything behind it. That was very, very nice.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to restrict myself to things that would be close to related to Valheim. I didn't want to like create some kind of like giant warhammer and it looks completely out of place
Yeah.
in Viking or Norse mythology. So yeah, so even going back to the question of, improving the mod,
Yeah.
I forgot to mention the Grasp of Undying.
Oh
Um,
yes, incredible weapon.
because organic stuff
Yeah.
I've always been a hard surface modeler, which is just more of like you kind of model in a very I wouldn't say like easy sense, but you're all like sharp shapes and kind of like that, like hard surface stuff. But like organic stuff like bones and hearts and
That was very
skin
cool.
and all that
It was a very
is
cool idea.
definitely out of my range of expertise. So I'd say I grew a little bit working with that. And I also wanted to make a weapon that was animated.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I can see your goals were just understand how to do something and do it. I love the weapon. I was gonna mention the weapon anyway. So without spoiling too much, what is the things that you pretend to do next in the two-handed weapons?
Probably what I want to do next is there's kind of like the Bronze Age, and I want to fill out some of the other missing gaps. I know I've done a lot of swords. I've done quite a few two-handed blunts,
Yeah.
uh, but now there's kind of like that gap of kind of some spears. Like
Okay.
I know there's the I won't be able to pronounce
It's okay. It's
it.
okay. It doesn't matter. It's out keys.
basically,
Yep.
basically the pole arm weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you usually find one in every category, anyways. There's bronze, iron, there's missing the silver, and there's black metal.
Yeah.
Uh, but even like the abyssal set, you basically just have the, I believe, knife and harpoon. I think are
Yes.
the only two abyssal weapons you can make from
Yes.
chitin.
You plan to remake something on that? Is that it?
Uh, Kind of make some two-handed weapons in that regard after
Okay.
I finish up the current one I'm doing, which is going to be like an undead greatsword,
Oof.
similar
Oof.
to the Grasp of Undying, but as a big bone sword
Oof. That's
uh,
nice.
with some fleshy bits. And then afterwards, when I get that, I probably will build an upgrade system,
Okay.
which would be like you could take the silver greatsword and you could recraft it with like gold coins and some other stuff, and now you have a gilded greatsword, and it's
Okay.
basically a silver and gold, and it would look completely different and upgrade the stats up to about where Motor Sorrow and the flame metal greatsword are at,
Yeah.
where it's just above black metal. And that way, there's kind of some weapons that you may enjoy or like, and still be able to use them with also a little more flair later on.
And my last question is, do you pretend to create another mod that is not related to the two-handed weapons, or you want to stick with this and just try to make much more stuff about this mod that you already have?
I definitely do want to branch out and work on kind of hand-to-hand weapons. I know there's already fisticuffs.
Yes.
I think it used to be called Brawler,
Yes.
but it got taken over by I think Starbos.
As our boss, yes.
Hopefully I'm not butchering his username. He also does some nice stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
But I have a different vision of how to do hand-to-hand weapons.
Okay.
So that's also going to be another challenge that I'm going to have to learn, which is basically like creating armor.
Oof.
Uh, because it's going to have to be something that's rigged to the player's model
Okay.
with what I want to do.
But you want to do that for the fistcuffs, or do you want to do that for the two-handed weapons? Or do you want to do for
Uh,
both?
for the fist.
Okay. Okay, okay, okay. I was gonna say, if we're gonna have armor for two-handed weapons, I was gonna be thrilled. That would be amazing. Now I don't need to install any more mod packs of armor, so I'm gonna use two-handed weapons and that's it. Done.
Because you get the armor with it. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here and for just using this time with me, man. I really appreciate that you've did this, and I really wanted to, just have some general questions in and just understand what was your process like, because maybe some people are just like me; they don't understand anything about these mods and how to create them. And I think it's just a nice initiative to know certain stuff about people that are creating the mods that we tend to play every day and that we have fun and we don't know anything about them. If you want to say something to the viewers, or if you want to leave a link for people to follow you or to find your work, you can do it right now.
I'd say to anyone watching, I said, if you want a mod, if you have an idea, if you have anything, I'd say go for it. The only thing you really lose out on is just not doing it.
That's true.
There's there's something you want to create. There's hopefully there's lots of resources for you to figure out how to do it and just do it. if it's the 3D, if it's programming, if it's anything.